sitting here?
About 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't buy that. You don't seem like someone just sitting around.
I'm a customer.
Then act like one. I do. Let me see it.
On what grounds?
Don't start that. Stand up, now.
I'm not resisting.
Then stop acting like it.
Why is he grabbing him?
Then stop tensing up.
You grabbed me without cause.
Turn around, now.
You didn't do anything. Why are you doing that?
Back up, all of you.
There's no legal basis.
We'll figure that out after.
What's going on?
Non-compliant. Possible trespass.
At approximately 10:18 a.m., inside a crowded cafe in Old Town Fort Collins, what began as a routine patrol turned into a confrontation that would later be reviewed at the federal level. Multiple witnesses would report that Officer Travis Bradley did not approach the man calmly. He singled him out, raised his voice almost immediately, and within seconds, the situation escalated beyond control. What the officer didn't realize was that the man he chose to confront had spent years investigating cases exactly like this. If you're into unfiltered stories like this, make sure you hit subscribe because this one only gets worse. Vance Holloway, 38, sat alone near the front window of Red Clay Brew House, a laptop open in front of him and a cup of coffee going cold at his side. He had been there for just under 20 minutes, reviewing documents, barely moving except to scroll or take brief notes. To anyone else, he looked like another professional working through a quiet morning. But Vance had a habit. He paid attention to movement, entrances, tone. Years of federal work had wired that into him. So when the door opened and Officer Travis Bradley stepped inside, Vance noticed. Bradley didn't look around casually. He paused just past the entrance, scanning. His eyes moved across tables, past couples, past a group of students, and then stopped, locked. Vance. The officer's posture shifted immediately. His shoulders squared, his pace slowed, and his hand rested near his belt as he started walking directly toward the table. No hesitation, no reason, just focus. Vance didn't look away, but he didn't react either. He stayed seated, one hand still near the laptop, calm. Bradley stopped right at the edge of the table, close enough to force the interaction. "What are you doing here?" he asked. No greeting, no introduction. Vance looked up at him, steady. "Working." Bradley let out a short breath through his nose, already irritated. His eyes moved over Vance, his clothes, his hands, the laptop, like he was trying to find something that justified being there. "Working," Bradley repeated. "You've been here a while?" "About 20 minutes." Bradley shook his head slightly, like he didn't believe it. He took a step closer, now fully inside Vance's space. "Yeah, see, that's not what I'm hearing." There was no one else speaking, no staff nearby, no complaint being made. Vance's tone didn't change. "Then you're hearing something incorrect." That answer landed wrong. Bradley's expression tightened instantly. "Don't get smart with me," he said, voice sharper now. "I'm asking you simple questions." Around them, the atmosphere began to shift. Conversations lowered. A chair scraped somewhere behind them. People were starting to look. Vance closed his laptop halfway, slow and deliberate. "And I answered you." Bradley leaned in slightly, his voice dropping but harder. "You don't look like you're just working." There it was, no accusation, but the meaning was clear. Vance held his gaze. "What exactly does that look like?" Bradley didn't answer directly. His jaw tightened, eyes narrowing as he straightened up. Then, without warning, "Stand up," he said. A pause, then louder, "Stand up, now." The words hung in the air for a second. Conversations around the cafe dropped even lower. A few people turned fully in their seats now, no longer pretending not to watch. Vance Holloway didn't move immediately. He looked up at Officer Travis Bradley, steady, controlled. "Am I being detained?" Bradley's expression shifted, irritation turning sharper, more personal. "I didn't ask you a question. I gave you an order," he snapped. Vance remained seated. "Then I need to know what that order is based on." That was enough. Bradley took a step in, his chair scraping loudly against the floor as his leg pushed it aside. The sound cut through the room. "You don't get to sit here and question me," Bradley said, voice rising. "You fitted description, and you're acting real suspicious right now." No description was given, no details, just pressure. Vance's tone stayed even. What description? Bradley ignored the question completely, already moving past it. "ID, now," he said, holding his hand out. "Let me see some identification." There was no explanation attached, no reason, just demand. Vance studied him for a brief moment, not challenging, measuring. "On what grounds?" he asked. Bradley let out a short, disbelieving laugh, shaking his head. "On the grounds that I'm standing here asking you for it," he said. "That's the only ground you need." A phone lifted somewhere behind them, then another. Bradley noticed, but instead of pulling back, he leaned further in. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he added, voice low but aggressive. "You people always do this, turn something simple into a problem." The shift was clear now, not implied, not subtle. Vance's eyes didn't move. "You people?" Bradley didn't answer that either. He waved his hand impatiently. "ID, now." Vance didn't reach for his wallet. Instead, he placed both hands calmly on the table, visible. "I'm not refusing, I'm asking you to justify the request." That hit a nerve. Bradley's jaw tightened again, and this time there was no attempt to keep his voice controlled. "You don't get to dictate how this goes," he snapped. "You're sitting here, in a place where you clearly don't belong, acting like you run the situation." A few people exchanged looks. Someone whispered, "What is he talking about?" Vance spoke, still calm. "I'm a customer." Bradley stepped closer again, now forcing Vance to lean back slightly just to maintain space. "No," Bradley said, shaking his head. "You're something else, and I'm trying to figure out what." Still no complaint, still no evidence, just assumption. Vance exhaled slowly, controlled. "Then figure it out without violating my rights." That did it. Bradley turned slightly, reaching toward his shoulder mic. "Dispatch, I'm going to need another unit at my location. Got a non-compliant individual, possible trespassing." The words were deliberate, louder than necessary, designed to frame the situation before anyone else even arrived. Vance's expression didn't change, but his eyes shifted briefly, noting the reactions around him. The phones, the silence, the pressure building. Bradley looked back at him and took another step forward. "Last chance," he said. "Stand up or I'll stand you up myself." His hand moved, closer now, hovering near Vance's arm. Bradley's hand didn't hover for long. He grabbed Vance Holloway by the arm, tight, sudden, unnecessary. "Up," he said, yanking slightly. The chair legs scraped hard against the floor as Vance was forced halfway out of his seat. A few people gasped. Someone near the counter said, "Hey, there's no need for that." Bradley didn't even look at them. "Stop resisting," he added immediately, louder now, though Vance hadn't resisted at all. Vance steadied himself on his own, pulling his arm just enough to stand fully upright without escalating it further. His voice stayed level. "I'm not resisting." Bradley stepped in closer, almost chest to chest, his grip still firm. "Then act like it," Bradley shot back, "because right now you're making this real difficult." Difficult. That word again, used like justification. Vance adjusted his stance, keeping his hands visible. "You put your hands on me without cause." Bradley leaned in slightly, lowering his voice but tightening his grip. "I don't need a reason to check someone out who looks out of place," he said. There it was again, clear, direct. A phone camera moved closer from the side. Someone else whispered, "This isn't right." Bradley finally glanced toward the growing attention, but instead of backing off, his tone hardened. "You all can step back," he said sharply, without turning fully. "This doesn't concern you." No one moved. Vance spoke again, controlled. "You still haven't explained what law I've broken." Bradley released one arm only to reposition himself directly behind Vance. "Turn around," he ordered. Vance didn't move. "For what reason?" Bradley's patience snapped. "For my safety," he said quickly, already reaching for his cuffs. "You're acting suspicious, refusing commands, and I'm not playing games with you." None of it matched what had actually happened. Vance turned his head slightly, enough to keep Bradley in view without making any sudden movement. "You're escalating this," he said. "There's no legal basis for detention." Bradley let out a short, irritated breath. "Yeah, we'll figure all that out after," he replied. "Right now you're going in cuffs." He grabbed Vance's wrist again, harder this time, and began pulling it back. A woman near the window spoke up louder now. "He hasn't done anything." Bradley snapped his head toward her. "Ma'am, stay out of it." Then back to Vance. "Last warning, turn around." Vance didn't raise his voice. "I'm not going to consent to unlawful detainment." That sentence changed everything. Bradley's grip tightened immediately, his tone turning colder, more aggressive. "Consent? You think this is optional?" His other hand came down toward the second wrist. At the same moment, the cafe door opened again. Footsteps, faster, heavier. Backup. Officer Nolan Reddick stepped inside, eyes moving quickly from the crowd, to Bradley, to Vance, already being forced into position. Reddick slowed slightly as he approached, taking in the scene. "What we got?" he asked. Bradley didn't hesitate. "Non-compliant, possible trespass, refusing ID." Reddick looked at Vance, calm, steady, not resisting. Then at Bradley, tense, forceful, already escalating. Something didn't line up. But Bradley didn't give him time to process it. "Grab his other arm," Bradley ordered. A brief pause. Reddick hesitated, just for a second. Bradley's voice sharpened instantly. "I said grab him." The room went completely still. Reddick stepped forward and reached for Vance's free arm. Reddick's hand closed around Vance Holloway's free arm, but not with the same force. There was hesitation in it, measured, controlled. Bradley didn't have that. "Lock it in," Bradley snapped, already forcing Vance's other arm higher behind his back than necessary. Vance's body shifted slightly from the pressure, but his voice stayed steady. "You're using excessive force." Bradley leaned closer, his grip tightening in response. "You're still talking," he said. "That's the problem." The cuffs were out now, one side already open in Bradley's hand. Reddick glanced at Vance again, then at the people recording, then back at Bradley. "Did he threaten you?" Reddick asked, low enough that it didn't carry far. Bradley didn't even look at him. "He's refusing commands." "That's not what I asked," Reddick said. That question lingered for half a second too long. Bradley's tone shifted, sharper, defensive. "He's being detained," he said flatly. "That's all you need to know. No charge, no explanation, just authority." Vance spoke again, controlled even with both arms restrained. "Officer, you're required to state reasonable suspicion before detaining me." Bradley let out a short laugh, shaking his head like he'd heard enough. "You watch a lot of videos or something? Because out here it doesn't work like that." It wasn't just dismissal, it was contempt. Reddick's grip loosened slightly without fully letting go. His eyes moved over Vance again. Calm posture, no resistance, clear speech. Then back at Bradley. "You said trespassing. Did the business ask him to leave?" Bradley finally looked at him, brief, annoyed. "He doesn't look like he's here to buy anything. That's enough." Reddick frowned slightly. "That's not—" Bradley cut him off. "Look at him," he said, nodding toward Vance without even trying to lower his voice. "You really think he's just sitting here minding his business?" The implication was clear, not based on behavior, based on perception. A man near the counter spoke up, louder this time. "He's been sitting here working. I've been here the whole time." Bradley snapped his head toward him. "Did I ask you?" Silence again. Vance shifted slightly, controlled despite the pressure on his arms. "You're making assumptions instead of stating facts." Bradley moved quickly. One cuff snapped around Vance's wrist. The click was loud, final. "There's your fact," he said. "You're detained." Reddick's expression tightened now. The situation was moving too fast, too far. "Travis," he started. Bradley didn't let him finish. "Secure the other side," he ordered. Reddick didn't move immediately this time. That hesitation was longer, noticeable. Bradley's tone dropped, colder now. "Don't start second-guessing me in front of a crowd." The pressure wasn't just on Vance anymore. Reddick looked at the cuff already locked on, then at Vance, then back at Bradley. Vance spoke quietly but clear enough for both of them. "You're both being recorded." Bradley didn't even flinch. "Good," he said. "Let them see what happens when someone doesn't follow instructions." That wasn't control. That was a decision. Reddick finally moved, slower this time, as his hand reached for the second cuff. Just as it was about to close, Vance turned his head slightly, his voice still calm. "You might want to pause," he said. Bradley scoffed. "Or what?" A brief beat. Then Vance added, "Because this doesn't end the way you think it does." Bradley didn't pause. The second cuff snapped shut. "Yeah?" he said, tightening his grip and pulling Vance's arm slightly higher. "It ends with you in the back of my car." Vance didn't react to the pressure. His posture stayed controlled, his voice even. "Before you take another step," he said, "you should check my identification." Bradley let out a short breath, almost amused. "You had your chance to show it. You don't get to set the terms now." Reddick looked between them, tension visible in his face. "We can still verify," he said. "It'll take 2 seconds." Bradley shook his head immediately. "He made it difficult. Now we do it my way." That was the pattern, control over procedure. Vance spoke again, still calm. "My wallet is in my inside pocket, left side." Neither officer moved right away. "Go ahead," Vance added. "You're already searching me." That landed differently. Reddick glanced at Bradley. "Let me check," he said. Bradley hesitated just for a second, but the eyes in the room were still on them, phones still up. "Do it," he said finally, stepping slightly to the side but keeping hold of the chain between the cuffs. Reddick reached carefully into Vance's jacket pocket, slow and deliberate. He pulled out a slim wallet, flipping it open just enough to check the contents. His eyes scanned once, then again. His posture changed immediately. "Travis?" he said quietly. Bradley didn't look at him. "What?" Reddick turned the wallet slightly so Bradley could see. "This isn't—" Bradley cut him off. "What is it?" Reddick didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped half a pace back, giving himself space as he looked more closely at the credentials inside. The badge, the ID, the seal, everything lined up. His voice dropped lower. "He's federal." That got Bradley's attention. He looked over, irritation still on his face. "Federal what?" Reddick held the wallet out more clearly now. FBI. The word didn't carry loudly, but it didn't need to. Bradley's expression didn't change immediately. Then it did, subtle but visible. His grip on the cuffs shifted slightly. "That doesn't mean anything," Bradley said, quickly, almost reflexive. "He still—" Reddick cut him off this time. "Civil Rights Division." That part hit harder. Silence spread across the immediate area. Vance stood there, hands still cuffed behind his back, completely composed. "I asked you to verify before escalating," he said. "No anger, no raised voice, just fact." Bradley looked at the credentials again, longer this time. His jaw tightened, but the confidence from earlier wasn't the same. "You should have said something," he muttered. Vance responded immediately. "I tried. You didn't want to hear it." That was true, every step of the way. Reddick closed the wallet slowly, still holding it, his attention now fully on Bradley. "We need to take these off," he said. Bradley didn't move. Not yet. His eyes shifted briefly, to the people recording, to the room, back to Vance. The weight of the situation was settling in, but instead of stepping back, he doubled down. "You're still being detained," Bradley said, voice lower now, controlled but strained. "We're going to sort this out properly." Reddick stared at him. Travis. Bradley didn't look away from Vance. You don't get special treatment just because of a badge. Vance's expression didn't change. You've already made this worse than it needed to be. A pause. Then calm and direct. You should call your supervisor. For a moment, no one moved. Officer Travis Bradley stood there, still holding the chain between the cuffs, his jaw tight, eyes fixed on Vance Holloway like he was trying to hold on to control that was already slipping. "We're not doing that," Bradley said, finally. "Not yet." Reddick stared at him. "We're past not yet." Bradley ignored him. Instead, he looked back at Vance. "You don't get to walk in here, act suspicious, refuse commands, and then flash credentials like it erases everything." Vance didn't react. "Nothing was erased," he said. "It was documented." That word landed. Bradley's eyes flicked briefly toward the phone still raised around them. Every angle covered, every second recorded. Reddick stepped in slightly, not aggressive, but firm. "We need to slow this down," he said. "He's identified. There's no reason to keep him in cuffs." Bradley shook his head. "There is," he replied. "He was non-compliant." "That's not enough," Reddick said. Bradley turned to him sharply. "You want to run the stop?" It wasn't a question, it was a challenge. Reddick didn't back off this time. "I want to do it right." That tension shifted again, this time between the two officers. Vance stood still between them, controlled, listening. "Call your supervisor," Reddick added, quieter but more direct now. Bradley exhaled hard through his nose, clearly irritated. His hand went up to his shoulder mic, but he didn't press it yet. Instead, he leaned slightly closer to Vance. "You could have avoided all of this. Simple ID check, we move on. But no, you had to make it something else." Vance met his gaze. Nothing was erased, it was documented. That hit clean. Bradley's eyes flicked briefly toward the phone still raised around them. Every angle covered, every second recorded. Footsteps approached from outside, heavier, faster, direct. The café door opened again. Sergeant Eleazar Crow stepped inside, eyes scanning once before locking onto the scene. Bradley, Reddick, Vance, the phones, the silence. He didn't rush. He walked straight up, stopping just short of them. "What's going on?" Crow asked. Bradley spoke first. "Suspicious individual, refused ID, situation escalated." Short, clean, controlled. Crow didn't respond immediately. His eyes shifted to Vance, then to Reddick, then to the cuffs in Bradley's hand. "Is he detained?" Crow asked. Bradley hesitated, just slightly. "Yes." Crow's gaze stayed on him. "For what?" That question stayed in the air. Bradley opened his mouth, then stopped. For the first time since this started, he didn't have an answer. Crow's tone changed immediately, sharp, direct. "Officer, step aside, now." Sergeant Eleazar Crow didn't raise his voice, but the authority in it cut through everything. Travis Bradley hesitated for half a second, then stepped back. Not far, but enough. Crow shifted his attention to Vance Holloway immediately. "Sir, are you injured?" Vance shook his head once. "No." "Were you informed of why you were being detained?" "No." Crow gave a small nod, like he already expected that answer. He turned slightly toward Reddick. "What happened?" Reddick didn't rush it. Initial contact was made without a clear complaint. ID was requested. He asked for justification. It escalated from there. Crow's eyes moved to Bradley. "Is that accurate?" Bradley's jaw tightened. He was being non-compliant. Crow didn't react to that. "That's not what I asked." A pause. Then Bradley said, "He refused to identify himself." Vance spoke calmly. "I asked for legal grounds before complying." Crow nodded again, this time slower. Then he held his hand out slightly toward Reddick, his ID. Reddick passed the wallet over. Crow opened it, scanned it once, then again, longer. No reaction at first. Then a subtle shift. He closed it and handed it back to Vance directly. "Mr. Holloway," he said, tone now measured and respectful, "you're free to go." Bradley looked at him immediately. "Sergeant!" Crow cut him off without looking. "No." One word, final. The room stayed quiet. Phones still up. Witnesses still watching. Crow turned back toward Bradley now, his voice low but firm. "We'll address this, not here." Bradley didn't respond, because there wasn't anything left to say. Vance adjusted his jacket slightly, then picked up his laptop from the table. He didn't rush, didn't look around, just composed. Before stepping away, he paused briefly, not for Bradley, for Crow. "You might want to secure that footage," he said, glancing once toward the phones around the room. "It'll be relevant." Crow gave a short nod, understood. And that was it. No shouting, no dramatic ending, just reality settling in. Vance walked toward the door, the same calm presence he had when this started. Behind him, the scene stayed frozen for a moment longer, until the weight of what just happened fully caught up. Because this wasn't just a bad interaction, it was recorded, documented, and now unavoidable. If you made it this far, you already know this wasn't just about one moment in a cafe. It was about how fast authority can turn into something else, and how quickly things change when the wrong person gets targeted. If you want more stories like this, stories that don't get softened or skipped, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications.